We are going back to Proverbs 21:12. Last week there was a question concerning it, and anytime that we have a question, we need to address it. And I may not be ready on any given day to answer certain questions. And I need a little bit of time to look into it. So the question was, why was there a difference in translations, difference in rendering from the New King James, which is what I usually use, and the Old King James, 1611, because there is a significant difference. Why would there be such? So we're just going to look at it. So we have Proverbs 21:12, and what it is different renderings from different translations. So we have to ask the question, what were the translators thinking? What were they doing? And how did they come to their conclusions? Well, this is the New King James, Proverbs 21:12. The righteous God wisely considers the house of the wicked, overthrowing the wicked for their wickedness. All right? That is the New King James. King James 16:11 is different. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their wickedness. So there's a difference here. In that first line, there is a definite difference. And so we're going to compare 10 translations and look at what the issue is. Now, we're looking at 10 translations. That does not mean that I would recommend many of them, because I don't. But we just need to look by way of comparison to see what is going on and get an understanding, and we'll also look at the Hebrew, at least a little bit, as to what we've got. So here we go with our 10 translations. All right, so I want you to notice I am putting what the subject is in the first clause, and also what each translation puts as a subject in the second clause, because that's what it comes down to. With the New King James, God, as we see right here, God is the subject of the first and God is the subject of the second. Okay, so the righteous God wisely considers the house of the wicked, overthrowing the wicked for their wickedness. So it is continuing on with the subject that was in the first clause. God is the one doing the overthrowing. Now, going to the King James, it changes. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked. So that's the subject of the first clause, but then we have a switch up of, but God overthroweth the wicked in their wickedness. So it changes the subject. And I have to say that this particular translation, and I'm not going to say who's right or who's wrong. I'm not going to. But I'm going to have an opinion on it. But I will say that this goes very well with some of the other Proverbs that we've seen. 21:11, when the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise, but when the wise is instructed, he receives knowledge. That the righteous man wisely considers the house of the wicked, all right, and God overthrows the wicked, and that would be that your one is looking at the things that occur, and wisdom is increased by it, all right, that the wicked will be punished. All right, now we go to the American Standard Version 1901, and in this, it is completely different from the other two in that man is the subject all the way through. The righteous man considereth the house of the wicked, how the wicked are overthrown to their ruin. Once again, and I've got two other, 21:11's right there. Yeah, this matches well with 21:11 and 19:25. That the righteous is witnessing the overthrow of the wicked. And of course, it's by God. All right, so now we go to the New American Standard. This is 1995. The righteous one considers the house of the wicked, turning the wicked to ruin. All right, the righteous one can only be God. Even though it's not capitalized like some translations will do. Evidently, the New American Standard does not do that. But obviously, the righteous one is the one that turns the wicked to ruin. Well, who can do that but God? All right, there's nobody can do that. So this one is consistently God, like the New King James was. Now we go to the ESV. The righteous one observes the house of the wicked. He throws the wicked down to ruin. So the ESV is very similar to the New American Standard and very similar to the New King James. All right, then we go to the NIV. The righteous one takes note of the house of the wicked and brings the wicked to ruin. All right, God is the subject of both of those. The righteous, this is Geneva, the Geneva Bible. The righteous teacheth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their evil. So, like the King James, it switches up. Man is the first subject, God is the second subject. All right, Young's literal translation, the righteous one acts wisely toward the house of the wicked. He is overthrowing the wicked for wickedness. So the righteous one is God. He, that's God, is overthrowing the wicked in his wickedness. So we go to the Septuagint. And that is that's from 250 BC. That is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. Of course, it's been translated in English for us. But the Septuagint, a righteous man understands the hearts of the ungodly and despises the ungodly for their wickedness. All right, so man is both subject in there. This is the Tanakh. This is the modern day Jewish Bible. It does not have a New Testament in it at all. It is strictly law of Moses, law and prophets of the Old Testament. That's it. And so the righteous one observes the house of the wicked man. He subverts the wicked to their ruin. So that one has God as the subject in all of those. So these are our 10 translations in this. So we have to ask the question, why the difference and what is the problem? And initially I thought it may be a certain scrolls or certain even fragments that may be a problem or may be why there's a difference, but that's not the case at all. That is not the case. It is a matter of a translator's problem. And like I said, I'm going to give you my opinion on it. So the subject, you have Proverbs 21:12, the subject of the first clause needs to continue in the second clause. There doesn't need to be a switching. And I'm going to show you why. All right, from the subject of the first clause that is the Greek word, it is a noun, it is singular, it is masculine, and it can be translated as righteous, the righteous, and well, I think it's not plural, so it can never be like the righteous meaning large group of the righteous. It is going to be singular, individual, and masculine only. And it can be translated the righteous, and that would be singular, the righteous man, that would, once again, singular, or righteous God. It doesn't say. It just says righteous. And whatever it is, must be one and must be masculine. Whatever that is. Whoever that is. Okay? And the second clause has no identified subject of who does this in the second clause. The righteous is in the first clause, which can be man or God, but the second clause is just a continuation of what the first clause said. So the second clause is overthrowing the wicked for their wickedness, or how the wicked are overthrown to their ruin. All right, it doesn't tell you who the subject is, you've got to get it from the first clause, which is the subject of the first clause continues into the second, meaning that word righteous. And however you're going to think of that, whether it's going to be man or whether it's going to be God, there doesn't need to be a switching, because then you get inconsistent. And I'm going to show you some things. There's similar construction in Proverbs. I've got two examples. 15:12, a scoffer does not love one who corrects him, nor will he go to the wise. All right, the second clause does not tell you who the subject is. You get that from the first clause. All right, if I were to say, nor will he go to the wise, well, who won't? All right, you need the first clause. The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. All right, that is Lord in both the first and the second clause, because we're dealing with couplets. All right, and so the subject is given to us there at the first, and then, and he. All right, who's the he? Well, that's the subject from the first clause. The Lord adds no sorrow with it. So the subject happens to be the Lord. Now, we're going with what I call our absolute literal translation. All right, this is me putting down as literally as I can, not really being a very good translator at all, but putting it down as best I can. And it means the righteous ponders the house of the wicked, overthrowing the wicked and their wickedness. All right, that's just absolute literal, not the best rendering at all. But whatever singular masculine noun does the first part, also does the second part. That is my opinion. Now, that's not to say that others can't have just as valid an opinion, but personally, I think that's the answer. I think that you need to look at the entire proverb to be able to understand all of it, and there must be a consistency in the subject. If is righteous God, okay, then it is. If it's righteous man, okay, then it is. But there's got to be consistency in it. You can't create a new subject, and that's what I'm getting at. You can't just magically come up with a new subject, which some have done. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do. I don't. You stick with one or the other. So New King James, ESV, New American Standard, Young Literal, NIV, Tanakh, God is the singular subject. Okay, so here is all these, and God is the one that's the singular subject to it. All right, with the ASV and the Septuagint, man is the singular subject. All right, so here is that. And with the King James and the Geneva Bible, it switches to a new subject. Man is the first one and God is the second one. And this is where I would say, all right, you got to justify that. You're going to have to give me a justification for that. While I would say that this translation isn't ungodly, it's not teaching something ungodly, by no means is it doing that. I just would say you can't create a new subject where there isn't one. That's all I'm saying. You've got to have very good justification. And perhaps the translators of the Geneva Bible and of the King James, perhaps they did. Anyway, who is the subject of this proverb? All right, this is the big question. When there's a question, take the whole proverb to get the meaning, and we have to ask the question. We're taking it to the second clause. What singular masculine noun does this? That is, and I'm taking, this is my best literal translation, overthrowing the wicked and their wickedness. All right, my question is, if you don't know who the subject is, take the whole proverb and there's got to be a clue. Well, that's a clue, because no one can do that except God. God is a singular masculine noun. All right, so in my opinion, it wouldn't be righteous man, it would be righteous God who has done this. But that is my opinion, and my opinion, it goes doesn't go very far at all. And I can't pretend that I know a whole lot about translating, but my opinion is based on looking at the proverb itself to help you come with an understanding. Such as using the Bible, which going to on a larger scale, using the Bible to help you, if you were translating, using a Bible to help you to get the right word when you may not know it. For example, and I'm not picking on the King James, I'm not, because I think they did extraordinary work, and they were beginning something that a few years earlier you would have been burned to death for doing it. They had to work through the King James I, King James Bible. They had to work through him for him to authorize it. But as Bob is teaching the Wednesday night class now on the book of Jonah, from the Hebrew, the word in Jonah is specific. Fish. That's specific. You can't make it something else. God prepared a fish, a great fish. You can't make it something else. Now, getting into the New Testament, the Greek actually weren't that specific. The Greek word could be fish, or it could be whale. Why not go and ask whoever translated the book of Jonah, whatever scholar, Hebrew scholar, translated the book of Jonah, how did you come to fish? Because I have a choice here. Which one is my choice? And the Hebrew, in the King James, from the book of Jonah, is whale. Sorry. It is fish. I am going to confuse everybody as I am getting confused right now. It is fish. From Jonah, it is fish. But getting into the New Testament, suddenly it becomes whale. Well, why would that be? And I would just say somebody wasn't communicating. Somebody didn't see, well, what does the book of Jonah say? If there's a choice. And it could be that whales are really big, and whales, I suppose, could swallow a man. But that's hardly the point. What did God prepare? All right, and what does the Old Testament say? And I'm saying that for the sake of when you're dealing with something in one part of the Bible that you may not know the answer to it, it may very well be given somewhere else. And in this case of Proverbs 21:12, and I think it is in the proverb itself that we can know. Okay, so that's the best I can do on Proverbs 21:12. Now, we left off last week on verse 17, so we're in 21:17, and it says this: "He who loves pleasure will be a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not be rich. All right, I think that we can take this from a material standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint. I think that one could, it won't be very hard to come to the idea that someone who loves wine and oil, someone who loves pleasure, is going to be spiritually poor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, of course, I prefer creature comforts. Of course, I prefer if those creature comforts are somehow increased, and now things are more than just survivable. Things are now very comfortable and increasing that comfort more and more. But here is the thing. This is one who seeks these things. One that is luxury and pleasure takes precedence. It is first and last. It is the very thing that they are looking for, and this is exactly what the Epicureans were in Acts chapter 17. The Epicurean philosophy was whatever makes you happy, whatever it is that is sensual, whatever it is that is in the world, pursue that. Pursue it. And so the Epicureans were very well known for overindulging in numerous things, whether it is alcohol or whether it is food or whatever it happened to have been. And they were regarded by a lot in Greek society as being ungodly people. He who loves pleasure will be a poor man. That's what he pursues. And will this be someone who becomes materially poor? That's very likely, I would say. But definitely spiritually poor, where there is no restraint, there's no discipline. Well, then here is someone who's going to be taking a nosedive, I think. And but it's a matter of loving pleasure over everything else. We come to verse 18. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the unfaithful for the upright. Here is this comparison of the wicked to the righteous. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous. What does that mean? That means the righteous will always take precedence. Always. The righteous will be completely loved and protected. Their prayers are answered. Their prayers are heard. They are the ones that God protects and listens to. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous. That, if we think of it this way, that I will gladly give you 10 wicked for that one righteous over there. I mean, think of it like a ransom. That the righteous are the ones that God loves. Now, He loves everybody, but He doesn't love every behavior. Matter of fact, we can learn from this very book that there are certain things that are an abomination, that He hates. And we can also see where there is punishment that is going to be dealt out by God to the wicked, and it will be witnessed by the wicked. They will see it. It will be coming upon them. Now, there's also that idea, the wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the unfaithful to the upright. All right, that the wicked will fall into the trap that they set for the righteous. That's also an idea that's in here. And of course, Esther 7 and verse 10, where Haman is the one that goes to the gallows that he made for Mordecai. All right, and he falls into the very trap that he set. And the same thing in Daniel chapter 6. You have the satraps and the other officials. They're trying to get rid of Daniel because Daniel is over them and Daniel is honest. That's an inconvenience to them because they're not there to be honest. They're not there to do a good job. They are there evidently for grift, for however they can profit. And Daniel is over that to where, nope, he's not going to allow that to happen. He's going to be the one checking up on it. And while he does go into the lion's den, he's not killed by the lions, but those satraps and others who set the trap for him, they are the ones that are killed. They don't even get to the bottom of the den before they are torn to pieces. Now we come to verse 19. Better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. All right, we have seen already similar to this in verse 9 of to dwell in the corner of a housetop. That is, let it be known to anybody who just has a skewed idea, let it be known that the book of Proverbs does not paint or depict women as always negative, no more than it paints men as always negative. It paints people or depicts people that they can be good, they can be wise, they can be wicked. And either can be that way, whether it's a man or a woman. Either can be that way. And that we have, obviously, wisdom depicted as a lady. We also have the virtuous wife, Proverbs 31, beginning in verse 10. And there are other places. Speaking of the wise woman builds her house with her own. She builds her house. But the foolish pulls it down with her own hands. Now, to verse 20. There is desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it. All right, the wise have treasure, the wise also use it, and you have oil in the dwelling of the wise. That's going to be different from verse 17. He who loves pleasure or he who loves wine and oil will not be rich. There's oil in the dwelling of the wise. And of course that would be olive oil, is what that would be in that day. And there could have been different types of oil from plants or other things that I'm just not aware of. But oil would be a sign of someone who is well taken care of. Someone who has some wealth behind them. And this desirable treasure, the wise have it and they use it. And they use it wisely. But a foolish man squanders it. We have, of course, Proverbs 17:16 going there. We see, why is there in the hand of a fool the purchase price of wisdom, since he has no heart for it? Foolish man can be given wisdom too. The foolish man, but he doesn't want it. A fool despises wisdom and wants nothing to do with it. But speaking of just that of physical treasures, yep, you can have that of the wise as using treasures in a wise sort of way, not in a thing of overindulgence or without any kind of discipline at all. But we can also look at this, as we've already gone into, we can look at this as that of spiritual matters. Of treasure, wisdom is greater than any treasure, greater than any oil, but the fool wants nothing to do with it. Now, verse 21. So we're at 21:21. He who follows righteousness and mercy finds life, righteousness, and honor. All right, so here's the direct result. Here is the destination of following these things, righteousness and mercy. Okay, and we go back to 19 and verse 8. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. There is the result in this. That there is a path everyone is leading, a path everyone is going down. And Jesus describes two paths. One that it is difficult and straight. It's a bit of a narrow path, and it is straight, and few are those who go down it. Then there is the broad path, and it is very comfortable going down that path. It is loaded with people. Many take that path, but it leads to destruction. Now, he is describing obedience and his doctrine as being restricted and straight. It restricts no one. It restricts no one. That is, it won't keep anyone out. As long as you maintain, as long as you are obedient to God and going that straight path, you can be on that straight path. But it is narrow and it is specific. And the boundaries of it or the limits of it are found in doctrine. It's a doctrinal path. That broad path is anything and everything. It doesn't matter. Choose your sin, choose your doctrine, choose whatever it is you want to follow, and you're on that path. You're on it. And that path accommodates everybody else. And so we come back to this. Verse 21, he who follows righteousness and mercy finds life, righteousness, and honor. Where does that narrow gate, that restricted, that straight path head? It heads to life. It heads to eternal life, is where that goes. Now, verse 22, a wise man scales the city of the mighty and brings down the trusted strongholds. Here is the power of wisdom, and others do not understand it. There's also, we can throw into this, also that of providence of God and protection of God. We can also do that. But wisdom on its own is very powerful. It does not lead you into self-destructive behavior. It does not lead you into places that are not a benefit to you, even though that may seem to the outside world, it may seem that way. But it is, you have a wise man scales the city of the mighty. Wisdom triumphs over might every single time. Wisdom triumphs over might. And also, we can bring in verse 31 in this. The horse is prepared for the day of battle, but deliverance is of the Lord. He's the one that takes care of it. All right, so that's how you can have someone who's a 9'9" giant who has been trained as a warrior from his youth, who has been in battle. He's a veteran of battles. Death is nothing new to him. Killing is nothing new to him. And he can go against this youth who's not even in the army. And one walks away. One becomes king, and the other dies right there and rather quickly. That's also how you can have Gideon with 300 men going against an a seemingly numberless, you couldn't number, of this massive army. Gideon with 300 can defeat them. And God wanted that to, He designed it that way so that Israel would know you didn't do this by your power. So that you can just rest on your own confidence. But it is on God who brought this about. Obviously, God who brought it about. Now we come back to 22. A wise man scales the city of the mighty. The mighty can't stop it. Foolishness, corruption, depravity cannot stop wisdom and truth. Cannot. One is armed with corruption and nothing real, while the other is armed with everything beneficial, with solid facts, solid reality, everything necessary. The mighty cannot stop the wise. Verse 23. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. All right, we have had several verses on this concerning the tongue, and that of false witnesses, and also talebearers, which are gossips. We have in those that are agitators, that they're rile up people. He who guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from trouble. All right, verse 12, 18, the tongue of the wise promotes health. 15:2, the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly. You guard your tongue, guard what is said. How it is said can also be something to consider, not out of arrogance, but out of humility. Not from some kind of high horse, but once again out of humility. Guarding your mouth and tongue. Well, that as it says, keeps your soul from troubles. It is, you're governing yourself. And we've said it before, we'll say it again, then we'll have to end for today. But some folks, and you've met them, I've met them, who they say what they think and they blurt it out and they think it's a virtue. They think they are the courageous ones because they said something that everyone else thinks, wow, you really shouldn't have said that. You have no idea who you just hurt or who you just offended and how you offended them, and that simply isn't true anyway. You don't even know what you're talking about, and thinking somehow that's a strong character. It's not. It's a weakness. There needs to be a filter. No one needs to know everything you think. Nobody. And there has to be a filter. And sometimes we can think something to discover, like a few seconds later, well, we were wrong about that anyway. A good thing we didn't say anything, but you were wrong about it anyway. You're trying to get all the facts. I want to thank everybody for being with us, and hopefully we can begin again next week. Thank you.